Good afternoon. We are live on 420 grams, I believe. We were supposed to be live many hours ago, but I think both the China and Japan national teams didn't want us to do that. They didn't want to go home, neither side. We had a really super day of football, actually. The afternoon was a gritty performance from the Philippines, but not enough to see or to upset South Korea. So, which means South Korea in the final of the AFC Women's Asian Cup 2022, which is, of course, being held in India. And one of the main reasons why we have been covering this most important of events to have happened on Indian soil, I think, maybe ever. Uh, and in the second semi-final, sorry, and in the second semi-final, we of course went to penalties. Much excitement. The game finally finished an hour after scheduled time, and China are through to their first ever, I think, final of this championship.
Actually,
of this
that's true
decade.
for South Korea.
Of this decade.
Okay, okay, second. Okay, so I'm very poor on the facts. Vaibhav Raghunandan has been covering the tournament for Newsclick and for 420 grams, and he did a great series on Indian women's football as well. Vaibhav, you
I think
attended
you're
both
again poor on the
post-match press
facts.
conferences.
Yeah, I did. I think Philippines is the real story here from the semifinals, to be honest, because they're a very low-ranked team. They're ranked 64 in the world. That's below India for those of you all watching. And they made it this far. They obviously are. It's a huge thing for them, which you could see in the semifinal when in the quarters when they beat Australia. It was a big deal. And this means that obviously they qualified for the World Cup, which is like truly, actually, perhaps the most important gaining factor out of this tournament. Something that was also quite evident in the way that the Japanese coach responded to the loss. Have won the tournament the past two editions, and they were knocked out on penalties yesterday. And in fact, Saki Kumagai missed a penalty, man. So, Saki Kumagai plays for Bayern Munich. She's like Asian Women Footballer of the Year, I think, for 9,000 years since the genesis of man. She's an outstanding player, and but I think he was very relaxed there. Like, I would have expected, if I honestly, because it was a huge thing that China beat them. But from the moment they equalized in extra time, you knew that they were going to beat them because it was last minute and they were on a high while Japan had dropped. Uh,
Hmm.
but he was pretty relaxed about it. He said, "Yeah, the girls played well, but it's great, but we have to look forward to next year, which is when the tournament is. The objective was to come and like give these girls time here. It's been a tough time for the national team. It's been tough for us, and it was good to get together and do this. And now we look forward to the World Cup. So that really is the objective of this whole thing. And
Hmm.
on that same note, the playoffs are happening, by the way, right now. So
Hmm.
there's Chinese Taipei were playing the playoffs, and Thailand are out. Like, they've lost both their games and they're out of contention. So it's now boils down to the other two to make the final slot for the World Cup.
World Cup.
And in the same vein, like South Korea, like it's a bit like the AFCON. If any one of you all have been following the AFCON, where Senegal have made it to the final, and Senegal are like the biggest and the best African footballing country to have never won the AFCON. So it's a bit like that
Hmm.
for South Korea, who the
Hmm.
natural assumption is they have G, like, who plays for Chelsea. She's an amazing player. I would go on and say she's perhaps the best player at the Women's Asian Cup. And I know that people may argue and say there was Sam Kerr and there's Mana Iwabuchi and Saki Kumagai, but and South Korea have never won this tournament, so they're in the final and with a great shot. Like, I would say they're going as favorites because they've not lost a game. They've won every
Hmm.
game pretty emphatically, been
Hmm.
superb. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. For me, from that first game, definitely, the Philippines were very well organized and they did a lot of hard work
Sure.
defensively. But South Korea were pretty much on cruise control, seeing the game through, and
Yeah,
which
I
is
mean,
very,
it's
very
like
good.
bada, like you're the elder sibling playing with a younger sibling
Hmm.
almost. Like एक हाथ
Hmm.
आपने लगा रखा है दूरी पे and आप खेल
Well,
रहे थे.
हमारे यहाँ
You
उल्टा
will
हिसाब
like.
होता था. Uh,
That's because your brother was
think,
better than you, no?
yeah, of course, and so age has nothing to do with it. Sharda, if I may bring you in, first semi-final first. Uh, how did you enjoy the Philippines' performance, and what did you make of South Korea as well?
You're muted though, ma'am.
Okay. I have now been, the host has unmuted me. The Philippines performance was both sort of heartening to watch. The fact that they were here, they didn't expect to be there. There's such a big win over Australia in the quarterfinals, and all that I kept thinking about is, damn, this could have been India. India could have been here in this position, whatever it takes, to get to this place.
Hmm.
Which is a very narrow way of looking at it. But because of the fact that India were haven't been given a chance to play or to show us what they can do,
Yeah.
you saw what the Philippines was able to do. A completely dramatic performance. There is like screaming and shouting and head tearing in Australia going on because of this result. Not the fact that, I mean, they're going to be hosts, so they're all right, but just the result. And like Vaibhav said, that the South Koreans did look that they were in a different class. They were a different class of team compared to them. But what you learn through this tournament is that if you are able to, as a footballing unit, is just hold your line, as they say, just hold the
Hmm.
line and see how far you can take it in a
Hmm.
knockout time. Anything is possible.
Yeah.
I was watching that penalty shootout against China and Japan. I say, oh God, this is not happening, but it was. I mean, the Japanese technically looked the far more accomplished team, the far more superior team. They were more stylish, and but they're out of the finals. They will not have their third straight title.
Some of the midfield skills were really
Oh,
thing
ho,
to
ho, ho,
watch
ho.
in the second game. But Vaibhav, the second one, just coming back to the game for a minute before we maybe spend a few minutes talking about everything else going on around the tournament and all of those things. But first 45 all Japan, second 45 pretty much all China, except towards the end where Japan again had like, oh, now they were concerned about how things were turning out, so there was a little bit of second wind. uh, but very different halves, and sort of you kind of figured that a draw is what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the second half, I think the Chinese coach made three substitutions. He had like right at the beginning of the second half, he brought on like it was like a really brave, like imagine, yeah, you're pulling out three straight and like you're like you nahi composition change karte hain.
Hmm.
But to be honest, like I still didn't see China drawing. Really, I mean, both their goals were very hopeful balls in the box put in by China. Both of them, left side cross, dono taraf se. Both times it was the same defender, and both times the goalkeeper was beaten. Like, I mean, the second goal, though, I think really the goalkeeper Yamasaki should have. She really has to be covering the near post better. And this
Hmm.
has been one of Japan's problems, to be fair, at the world level also, which is goalkeeping. All right, they have some, like you were saying, midfield. So in fact,
Hmm.
we were discussing this yesterday. So Japan have had a tendency in the women's game to produce some outstanding midfielders always. Like Saki Kumagai, for example, plays center half, center back for them, stopper back for Japan in the national team right now. But that's also because they've been having a lot of problems with injuries, COVID, this, that. But she's a defensive midfielder for Bayern Munich. She was a defensive midfielder for years for Lyon, won multiple Champions Leagues. Mana Iwabuchi, same. Homare Sawa, the legendary Homare Sawa, was like an absolutely amazingly gifted midfielder. But always Japan have had very like between the sticks they've had their troubles. And yesterday both the goals, I mean, and if anyone who for example, Siddhanth, that I'm always defending goalkeepers because I do believe their
Yeah.
jobs are really tough. I always
Yeah.
do defend them, and I do believe their jobs are really tough. But yesterday, that second equalizer, there's 1 minute left. You're not covering the near post. That is literally the only place that the striker can make a run to, and that's the only thing the striker can do. If you have played any football, you know that. And it was poor defending before that also. So it's, I mean,
Hmm.
really, I think Japan should be disappointed, and then they will be disappointed. Right after the match, there was a little huddle where I don't know what the coach said. The coach in the press conference, when he was asked what he said, I told the players they played really well, and this is what. But I'm sure there will be like a slight inquest because Japanese football has prided itself, despite the fall since 2011. There has been a, I wouldn't say a huge steep decline. They still make the
Hmm.
knockouts of the World Cup. They've made the knockouts every time since 2011. They reached the final again in 2015. But there has been a slight slide, and it has been of concern, enough concern that the Japanese Football Association has found a sponsor and put together a professional, very well funded, large scale women's league, and started taking an active interest in grassroots Japanese football again in a big way. So there will be concerns that you haven't managed to hold this one thing that was definitely, I mean, it was theirs. I was expecting an Australia Japan final, and when that did happen, I thought they were going to cruise. So yeah,
No, but
truly.
it also, I mean, so one thing I took away from it, Sharda, jump in whenever you feel like something is there to bite on. Uh, but uh, one thing I thought that was different, like you rightly mentioned. So the two Japan goals were fantastic headers. I mean, there's nothing more to say about that. I think uh, really, really top level headers. I mean, you
The
can't save
second
that.
one,
You
like,
can't plan
kya
for
tha
that.
yaar?
Yeah, great deliveries and then the rest. Uh, but these mistakes that Weber was talking about, and also the first semi-final. The first semi-final to me, Korea looked like uh, falling into the same trap that the other football uh, is in, which is overcoaching. You know, you have like 60% of 70% of possession, but you want to play the ball only like this way to a large extent. I'm not saying that they were not attacking; they had a lot of chances and they scored a couple of goals. Job was done. Not saying that, but on the one hand, it's the predictability of a coached, well coached system, and in the other one, we got to see what sort of, if you're not overcoached, maybe you don't. I mean, those mistakes are still made.
I saw
Yeah.
the second match which I was watching. I took notes and all like I do, which I of course don't mean anything today, but I was happy to take them yesterday. Is that there was a passage of play in which Japan was dominating and they weren't scoring. So that whole thing about possession numbers doesn't mean anything. But the
Hmm.
moment China scored, when they became 1-1, there was one like about 13 14 minutes of play that the Japanese game completely broke down. And then
Yeah.
as an
Completely
opposition,
collapsed.
you can see, yeah, you can then see the big holes that there are, and you had their best players. I thought Japan were very disciplined at one point when they were able to, you didn't have anyone taking wild shots from outside the box just because whatever, like chance laying it type. But the moment,
Hmm.
and then you saw how physically strong the Chinese were as well, and they literally, it's like they smelt it and they sensed it. And but still the Japanese was so superior that they were able to control, say, 14 minutes of, I mean, sorry, 29 minutes of the extra time. And then in the 1 minute they just got taken out, like Vaibhav said, with the goalkeeper who had a very average everything, including the penalty shootout. It was really, really poor.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Not that
Like,
goalkeepers can, you know but it was just every football game I see sort of teaches me more about how stats eventually don't come to much if there are no goals. Everything is about goals, or like holding the line, like the Filipino
Yeah. Yeah.
players will tell you. I mean, imagine the Philippines are in the World Cup. And China has had a very strong record in the Women's Asian Cup, until this is the first time in the last decade that they are now in a final. They won, I think, 5 times or something like that. When they
Hmm.
had 6 teams and 8 teams and a small number, they used to really dominate. And then there was North Korea, and now the Chinese are back, and they will
Yeah.
consider themselves absolute favorites to win. There'll be much triumph and happiness, that because Japan is always seen as the foremost Asian team outside. Even I would not even include the Australians. They're seen as the foremost Asian women's team,
Yeah,
and for them to
absolutely.
be beaten in this way is
I think it's like
just
also like,
apocalyptic almost. But that is if we were.
yeah, it is. It is a little bit. Actually, this is like actually what Shada ma'am is saying, and what you're also saying. You guys are right about this overcoaching business, because even when like the last tournament that I think I saw them, these national teams come together was at the World Cup, and even there, Japan lost to the Netherlands, and throughout the game, Japan were the better team, like technically so much better than the Dutch, and that's really saying something, by the way, that you are like a technically superior team to a Dutch team, no matter men, women, giraffes. Like I assume that the Dutch are going to be better technically, you know but it wasn't. And the Dutch had one opportunity, and bam, like they slammed it home. Yeah. And then again, Japan did like little dinky, beautiful little goal. Then again, Dutch one opportunity, bam. So I think even at the world level, there is perhaps this problem that maybe, I mean, this is again for us, this is perhaps some inquest will happen. Perhaps there will be a rethink in Japanese football as a whole. But there has to be some consideration put into like how much this technical brilliance, this like overpassing, overcoaching matters, because this is not the way the US play at all. This is not the way that
Hmm.
Sweden play at all, or even
Hmm.
Canada, like teams that have been doing well over the last World Cup cycle.
Hmm.
This is not the way they play at all. They're in it for the goals, they're in it for the big moments. Seize, win, go home. Doesn't matter if you
Hmm.
played the better looking football or not. So it's really something to consider for them.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you. Is this the over Barcelonaification of global football? Too much of passing, like 42 passes and then there is no goal. That kind of thing. Have
There
you
is
seen that?
something like, I mean,
Oh,
we're on
fantastic.
420 grams, right? We're on
Yeah.
420 grams, right? Okay. So then I can say this,
Doesn't matter then.
because I'm sorry, like
Sorry.
there's like actually
If
a
you're
word
going
for
to
this.
say something inappropriate, you can't say it on any channel. But
No, it's not
but you have
inappropriate, but I
discretion.
would just say that I would just have personally restrained myself from saying this on,
Might
like, I
go
mean, we are a
elsewhere.
football channel, so people, yeah, people understand this as a football channel. So everyone who's watching this is a football enthusiast. This is not like a news channel where people who are watching this may not be football enthusiasts. So the words I'm going to use, they know exactly what it means, because there is actually context for this. When Barcelona started playing, and Spain especially, not Barcelona, Spain started playing this, they started calling it masturbation football, which is essentially like आप बस खुद को खुश कर रहे हैं और कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं. You're not able to score goals, you're not able to create like opportunities in the final third. You are essentially just holding the ball and having fun with it. Like it's like playground bullies who don't give you the ball. When you get it,
Yeah.
then you can score. And this is what had happened to Spain. Completely, you're right, Shada ma'am, in saying that yes, this is something that has happened to Barcelona. Barcelona has still not gotten out of it, by the way. अभी
Back to
तक वो
बोला आपने.
उसी जाल में फंसे हुए हैं. So हम तो मतलब छोड़ ही सकते हैं. Like Spain निकल चुकी है उधर से, पर बार्सिलोना अभी तक वहीं पे फंसी हुई है. I think they bought what,
वापस
95 attackers this.
let's not talk about Barcelona.
Sorry.
This is not the time or the place. But
I just asked
Yeah, fair enough.
a
You
complete
shouldn't.
question from the outside.
no, Shada, since you did make notes
It
and
was
all,
just a
what else
completely
is in
out of
there?
syllabus
Please
question.
reveal all of it.
Please tell. Like,
No, I'm just looking at notes. No, I'm trying to see. I'm looking at the number 23.
any
who was
standout
who
players
was
like
the
you
winger.
guys have?
I mean, the Japanese striker was super, but listen, my notes are absolutely useless until I start writing.
Right.
But
Yeah, no, figure
it doesn't matter
that's fair
if,
enough.
if the
And
striker was super.
I'm sure
If
we'll
you don't,
also are we going to get something from you to read on this tournament so far, or after the tournament, or something like that?
Unfortunately, maybe not at this point, because it sort of I got delayed. I wanted to write something about what happened with the Indian women. And what I'm seeing is a common pattern across all women's sport is that the opportunities and the chances to play, like what the Philippines coach is saying, you'll hear of it everywhere over and over again, that we would be better if we played better teams, we would be better if we got more chances to play, we would be better if we had a league, so you hear
Yeah.
that. And then you heard
Yeah.
all it, and then you so that's what's all the things that are there in the moment that are coming. What I enjoyed watching women's football is fewer fouls, fewer, what are they called, those that professional fouls, just a better, cleaner
Technical
cleaner
fouls. Yeah.
yeah, a cleaner sort of style of play. So that's the fun that I've had watching it, and at the same time the fundamentals of the game that you see at every level, they still hold strong everywhere. And yeah, but it could have been the Indian team. I'm just kicking myself thinking about. I think about it every day and I get annoyed. So because that's a mass outbreak, like I kept saying, it's terrible. It's like you went and put the vaccine virus onto people. It's
I
horrible.
mean, I also like it's also like now worth. I think the question to really ask is like, it's fine. The Indians didn't reach there. These teams have reached there. They've gotten it. Like, are we still going to pay attention to women's football in India? Like, can we please do that? Can we please ask for a league? Like, these are like basic, constant questions. Like, in fact, Shada ma'am, since you also write cricket very prolifically, you must have read this interview that Saurav Ganguly did just a couple of days back, where they asked him about the IPL for women.
Yes.
And he said, when more
Yes.
women play cricket, then we will think of the IPL, which is like, I cannot think of a more backwards way of progressing a sport. Like, it's just
No,
baffles
I
me,
mean,
which is,
No, no. And
from a,
someone has done.
he,
Anisha Ghosh at Cricket for did the calculation.
sorry, my apologies, sorry.
I mean, the problem with that statement is
Okay,
that
my signal is gone.
he has no idea how
Will-
many women are playing cricket. I think the
Absolutely not. Like, he
numbers are already
doesn't.
there. That is the problem with the statement. Otherwise, fair enough from his top-down perspective, it makes sense. You only have the IPL once you have like a state level tournament, etc., etc. That's how you build a league structure, right? That's what we are arguing for, even for football to happen. That you have, yes, you have a national league, hopefully, but more importantly, you have the sport uh, proliferating or opportunities to play the sport at grassroots levels. So where there is already an interest, I think, and it's, yeah, of course, we as the media, yes, but I think those who are actively engaged in football at the community level, who are actually playing the sport, are developing their own opportunities, not only relying on, let's say, the state or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
to create those
I mean, the
opportunities
state
to
doesn't
play.
provide any opportunities
Yeah,
to
that's
play.
true.
So you have to.
Although
So you
looking at
have to rely on your own.
looking
See
at
the
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 sports
question.
budget, there is a massive increase in the allocation to Khelo India. So those are some things we have to examine, and these are the questions also we have to ask. Where is all this money going? If the central sport budget has received a boost at a time when many other budgets have not. But anyway, we're again digressing. Let's come back to the women's football. I think Vaibhav, what you were saying about the new league in Japan is exciting, man. And I think if, like the Philippines, they're saying that they don't have enough opportunities to play, perhaps simply because of the geographical proximity, there will be some chances. And now that they're going into the World Cup, maybe there'll be some chances for some of the Filipino women's players to go over to that league and get a chance to experience more competition.
Oh, I mean, the Japanese league has been on for a couple of years, yeah, and they've played through the pandemic and all. So, I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure there's enough opportunities if Indian footballers, women footballers, this is also true for like even the men, but we'll focus on the women. I'm sure they will find opportunities to play there. I'm sure there will be clubs who will be willing to snap a lot of them up. Like, there are some of these young girls who are definitely Asian level, like top level, and they could be even better. They're really young, but it again boils down to opportunity. Just how much they also, because it's difficult to go to a different culture and adjust and really start from scratch again. So it's a huge commitment. You have to think about all of these things, especially, like, I mean, when you're a little, if you're in the middle of your career, then you have to really think about all of these things.
The
Shadam, you
question
were
that
saying something before you cut. Yeah.
Ah, I just got bumped off. I said, don't call me man. Acha, so other than that, the Saurav Ganguly thing is very strange because West Bengal is starting its own women's league, state cricket league is starting. So you're saying, are you not talking to each other? Did you not know what is going on in your own state? And the question of a league available for women's football is just something that has to be told all the time. It's like you have to keep hammering it home because you can see. I mean, I'm doing a story on Bangladesh women's cricket, and that's the same thing there. And everyone's saying, look, the women are going to get you better results than the men. So just put your energy and your money into them. Like just try it and see what happens. And football is a big sport schools wise in India. There is in girls schools where girls are taught football. It's seen as a sport. We've seen what happened in the United States. It's a completely different sporting culture. But the fact that if your state bodies start doing it, if smaller and smaller organizers, smaller state level people start doing it, maybe then there will be a push for something bigger. I don't know. Maybe you're just being optimistic, But you have to actually be pushing for it all the time. And this whole thing of the women have to deliver at the top for people at the bottom to wake up and do things for them is
Yeah, that's
completely, it's feudal and it's stupid, and it belongs to it should not even be tolerated at a press conference. I mean, one of us should stand up in a press conference, stand up or online and say, please stop talking nonsense, please stop talking rubbish,
मैम
because it
बुलाते
will.
ही नहीं है ना, इसलिए अब तो बुलाते ही नहीं है ना हमें, इसलिए
कोई बात नहीं, यू हम तब भी कहीं ना कहीं तो बोल ही देते हैं.
Yeah, rubbish is rubbish. This is nonsense. So the interesting thing is, again, I'm jumping species, so to speak. The Pro Volleyball Football League that is starting tomorrow, I think. The teams own that league,
it
right? And
started
that's the first
yesterday.
time.
Yeah, it started yesterday. Yeah.
I thought starting tomorrow. Anyway,
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
third.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, today's one. So, excuse me, I shoot myself for that punishment. Teams own that league. That's the way sport is run in the US. That teams own the league, and then we can see, and these are functioning outside of the official federation setup or whatever that.
Federation's purview.
And you should see what comes off it, because I mean, the federation here, no matter what money it's getting from FIFA, it's not doing enough. If you are able to hold an international championship, the biggest championship, I was thinking, is it the biggest football event held in the country? You're thinking of Nehru Cups of the 1980s and the 1990s, and you say, okay, yes, no, whatever. Is the biggest football event in the country you're able to hold in the pandemic. Okay, you can't look after your own team. That's too bad. But maybe you can hold something else for the women players as well. You seem to have grounds that are FIFA and AFC compliant. You seem to have training facilities that are suitable. So what are you waiting for? Everything is there.
Perhaps.
I mean, to be honest, like
Perhaps the answer
what
to this
completely
question is
galls.
as simple as cash money.
Yeah. Cash money.
It makes
Yeah.
no sense
Exactly.
though. Like, I mean, you're holding the ISL, you're holding the I League, you're holding the qualifiers, and they go on for way longer than the IWL. Even the qualifiers, the I League second division qualifiers, they're also like more than a
Yes.
3-week tournament, right? And you can do the same thing for the women's game. You can just hold that's essentially like, Siddhanth, you've been to one IWL season when it was held in Ludhiana, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Jalandhar? Right?
Ludhiana.
And it was pretty much, like, if you remember, like, it was pretty much like this. Like, it was almost
No.
now training
I think-
facility udhar hi was.
We're losing your audio, Vaibhav. So anyway, I think also we have hit our target of when I say target, I mean our deadline of 4:30. I did want to say.
Hey, I thought it was for
couple of-
man.
um, Sharda, thank you for taking every opportunity
I
provided
just had to crack a bad one.
Yeah, with terrible internet, it makes for completely like zero, nothing at all. Just mute this guy, yeah, Abhinav. Thank you. Anyway, guys, so I need to get from you, since there's the small matter of a Asian Cup final to be decided. If you all have all had your, or we've all had our respective rants for the afternoon, who's going to win it?
Am I muted?
Sharda, go
China.
first, please. China.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
Vaibhav?
Looks like China.
Okay.
You can't come back
China
from that
to
match
take
against Japan. Yeah.
back the
And
Women's
not
Asian
win.
Cup home from India.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is he looks forward to the sort of diplomatic conundrum that the suit-wearing gentlemen at the AIFF face now, because there's the matter of a prize distribution ceremony, and if China win this tournament, what happens then? You are boycotting, diplomatically boycotting the Beijing Winter Olympics, where incidentally we have sent a team. I think the team
One
comprises one athlete and three officials and support staff, etc. Uh, but but what happens when the tournament is in your country? Do you boycott it then as well? It's worth. It's going to be worth a watch for more reasons than one. I think we also. I really want to announce this. Unfortunately, there's only 15 people watching this live, but we had this conversation yesterday and still decided to do it this way, so it's on us. Um, but the announcement is that Bala will be Bala Devi, the striker, or the, I guess, currently one of the top strikers in India, who recently had a stint with Glasgow Rangers. She's going to be on the post-match show with all of us, and we'll have, I think, maybe Gormangi Singh as well, former India captain, capped 70 times for India. Uh, so it should be a fun show. That's Feb 6th, right after kickoff. Hopefully, if it doesn't go into extra time and penalties, because we are old people and we cannot stay awake after 10 p.m. All right. Okay. And also, finally, we are going to put out another show uh, very soon. Since some of these things have come up in the context of the Asian Women's Championship. We've talked about AFCON and all of that as well. So we had the opportunity to speak to the sports editor of New Frame, which is an independent publication out of South Africa. They've been covering the tournament quite extensively. They're talking basically about Cameroon and hosting the World Cup and COVID-19 and all the politics around it. So a lot of fun stuff in that. So we'll put that out. I think maybe today, later today or tomorrow. Check that out if you have any interest in what's happening in African football with a top journalist from there, Njabulo Ngidi, the sports editor of New Frame. Okay, thank you, Sharda, so much for your time being on standby last evening as well and today. Vaibhav, as always. Hopefully next time we'll catch you with a little better internet. Yeah. So today it was a bit terrible, but hopefully next time. You are on the road, so it's not your fault. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Those who did, if you didn't join us for the final anyway, it's still going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.